Ram and the rest of the party came to a halt. "These people are incompetent, Dada," said Lakshman as he came close to his brother. What appeared in front of them was the Asura camp. The camp was barricaded, but not a sterling example of military genius. High wooden palisade fencing held together with hemp rope. While this was adequate defense against arrows, spears, and other missiles, a good fire would wreak havoc. There was a stream flowing by the camp, completely unfenced, though it was too deep for warriors to wade through, but mounted soldiers could ride across. Arishtanemi mocked. "I'm sure they imagine that the unguarded opening at the stream will serve as a bait." The Asuras had dug a small trench on the far side, crudely camouflaged, expecting enemy cavalry to attempt an attack by riding across the shallow stream. If any enemy would pass through it, Asura archers could rain shower of arrows. It was an effective military tactic. The execution, however, was amateurish. There was a splashing sound nearby. Then came the sound of a dull splash. Ram turned to the source of the sound. It came from the trench. Owing to its proximity to the stream, the trench might have got slippery. A soldier must have slipped. The Asuras had built a macha atop a tree, overlooking the trench. The objective was quite similar: to man the macha with archers who would fire at enemy soldiers trying to cross the stream. But the macha was empty. Ram concluded the Asura soldiers must be hidden in the trench. Ram crooned gently in the horse's ear, and the animal became still. He then reached for his arrow, nooked it in one fluid movement, and took aim. "The arrow cannot curve in flight, Prince. The enemies are deep in the trench," objected Arishtanemi. "I am not aiming for the trench, Arishtanemi-ji," whispered Ram. Ram then pulled the string and released the missile. The arrow spun furiously and sped forward. The missile hit the main rope that held the macha, slashing it off. As the rope snapped, the logs came untethered and thundered down, falling right into the trench. "Brilliant!" Arishtanemi laughed. The logs were good enough to cause injury, not kill, surely. Shouts emanated from the trench. "Should we?" signaled Lakshman. "No, we'll wait and watch. I do not want to trigger a battle," suggested Ram. Arishtanemi's lips curled. Sounds of distress and anger came off the trench. The Asuras were clearing the log that had landed on them. Soon enough, an Asura popped up. He was the tallest and looked like the leader. He was staring back at Ram and the troops. "This is Subahu," declared Arishtanemi, "Taraka's son and their military chief." The fallen log had dislocated Subahu's left arm. The rest of him was unharmed. He held out his sword. However, he couldn't hold his scabbard. His soldiers followed him. Ram was bemused. He couldn't decide whether to laugh or to applaud, or what to do with this foolhardy heroism. "Are these people mad? Can't they see we have 50 mounted soldiers?" groaned Lakshman. "Satyam ekam!" bellowed Subahu. "Satyam ekam!" shouted the other Asuras. Lakshman turned back to see their soldiers had raised the banner of the Malaya Putras. The mission was tasked by Vishwamitra, after all. Ram was annoyed. "Lakshman, where is the Ayodhya standard? Do it now." Lakshman pulled out the flag lying folded in the bag attached to the horse saddle. unfurled it and held high, under which the Ayodhyans marched to battle. It was a white cloth with a red circular sun in the center, its rays streaming out in all directions. At the bottom, suffused in the brightness of the rays of the sun, was a magnificent tiger, appearing to leap out. There would be war. "Charge!" shouted Subahu. "Satyam Ekam!" cried the Asuras as they took off. Ram raised his bald fist and shouted, "Ayodhyata Vijayatara!" It was the war cry of the Ayodhyans. Lakshman roared too. The Asuras stopped merely 50 feet from Ram's horse. Subahu held his sword low, non-threateningly, and asked, "Are you from Ayodhya?" "I am the crown prince of Ayodhya," said Ram. "Surrender, and you will not be harmed." Subahu's sword fell from his suddenly limp hand, and he went down on his knees. So did the other Asuras. Some of them were whispering to each other, but it was loud enough for Ram to hear. "Sukracharya, Ayodhya, the voice of Ekam. Sukracharya, Ayodhya, the voice of Ekam." The Asura camp welcomed Ram, Lakshman and the Malaya Putras ceremoniously. The injured Asura soldiers were received by Taraka, and the women quickly tended to the injuries. When everyone settled in the central square and a quick round of refreshments were done, Ram addressed Arishtanemiji to leave him alone with the Asuras. "Why?" asked the military chief. "I would like to speak with them alone." Lakshman was an objection. While he didn't mean to attack these people, he didn't necessarily mean they were equals. However, Ram still wanted to talk to them alone. Caring Lakshman was worried for his brother. "These people are savages. They are animals, Dada. Don't waste your time on them." Ram's breathing slowed, his body stiffened, and his face acquired a forbidding calm. Lakshman recognized it all too well, and he knew it accompanied relentless stubbornness. Arishtanemi spoke up. "All right, you can talk to them, but it is advisable not to do it in our absence." "Thank you," said Ram. "I've taken your advice, and I can trust them." Taraka and Subahu heard that. They were shocked. They always considered him an enemy. After a bit of a trifle, Arishtanemi agreed. However, he was battle-ready, mounting on a horseback. Slightest sign of trouble, he'll ride in and kill them. However, Ram couldn't convince Lakshman. Lakshman would not leave. "I am not leaving you alone, Dada." "Listen, brother, I am not leaving you alone, Dada." All right. Ram gave in. The military chief, along with the rest of the Malayaputra warriors, lined up at the border of the camp, with the stream behind them. Any sign of disturbance, they would go to rescue Ram and Lakshman. The brothers were seated on a raised platform in the central square. The Asuras gathered along with Subahu, who wore an arm sling, sitting beside his mother, Taraka. "This is slow suicide," said Ram. "We are only following the law," said Taraka. "What are you trying to achieve? Attacking the Malayaputras?" "We are just saving them. If they just reject their false belief and listen to the call of the Ekam, their souls will be saved." "So you're telling me that you're trying to save them just by harassing them, interfering in the rituals, and trying to kill them?" "Yes." And it is not us trying to save them. It's the true one, the Ekam. We are only instruments. If Ekam is on your side, how come the Malaya Putras are surviving for centuries? What explanation do you have for the people of the Sapta Sindhu? They have rejected the interpretation of the Ekam, and they have been dominant for so long. Why haven't you Asuras conquered India again? Why isn't Ekam helping you? The Lord is testing us. Testing you. So Asuras are losing every battle because God is testing you. Taraka was quiet. Have you considered that God may be not testing you? Maybe trying to teach you something? That maybe you have to change with the time? Didn't Shukracharya say this himself? That if a tactic led to failure, persisting to it, expecting a different outcome, is insanity? But how can we live with the rules of the disgusting decadent devas they worship in theory? Lakshman spoke up. These disgusting decadent devas have been in power for centuries. They've created cities, civilizations, while you are living in the pathetic camp in the middle of nowhere. It is you people who need to change the theory and practice, whatever it may be. Lakshman, said Ram, asking him to go silent. This is nonsense, Dada. They're delusional. Reality is their law, Lakshman. Change is difficult for the masculine people. They are only guided by law. It is very difficult for them to accept change. And when forced, they only cling to it. Masculine people consider feminine civilization, the change, their open-mindedness, fickle, corrupt and debauched. Lakshman frowned a little when Ram identified himself with the masculine way. Taraka and Subahu keenly watched the brotherly exchange. Subahu, with a balled fist, made a salute. Ram asked Lakshman, do you think what was done to Dhenuka was wrong? I think the way Asuras randomly kill people is even more wrong. On that I agree with you. Asura actions were not just wrong, they are evil. But I'm talking about Dhenuka. Was that wrong? Lakshman refused to respond. Answer me, brother, said Ram. Was it wrong? You know I will not oppose you, Dada. I'm not asking what you will do. What do you think, Lakshman? Subahu intervened. Who is Dhenuka? A criminal? A blot on society? A soul that will atone for his deeds for at least 1,000,000 births. But the law did not allow his execution. Had Shukracharya's law not permitted it, no matter how heinous the crime, should he have been executed? No, said Subahu. Ram smiled, ever so slightly, as he turned to Lakshman. Law applies equally to all, no exceptions, and law cannot be broken, except when... Lakshman turned away. He remained convinced that in Dhenuka's case, justice had been served. Ram addressed the Asuras. Try to understand what I'm saying. You're law-abided people. You follow the masculine way. But laws are not working anymore. Haven't been for centuries. That's what karma is trying to teach you. Karma is giving you a negative signal. It's not testing you, it's trying to teach you. You need to tap into the discipline and find a new Shukracharya, need a new masculine way, need new laws. Taraka spoke up. Shukracharya would reincarnate when the time is right, lead us to new ways. There was a long silence. Taraka and Subahu finally stood up, with balled right fists to their heart. They bowed low to Ram. Soldiers and women and children followed. Ram felt a weight suddenly on his chest. Guru Vashisht's word circled through his mind. Your responsibility is great. Your mission is all important. Stay true to it. Stay humble. But not so humble that you don't accept your responsibilities. Lakshman was glaring at the Asuras and then at Ram. He couldn't believe what was going on. What would you have us do, my lord? Asked Taraka. Most Asuras live with Vayuputras, far beyond the western borders of India, a land called Pariha. I want you to seek refuge there, with the help of the Malayaputras. Why would the Malayaputras help us? I will request them. What will we do there? Honor the promise your ancestors made to Lord Rudra. You will work with the Vayuputras to protect India. But protecting India means protecting the Devas. Yes, it does. Why should we protect them? They are our enemies. You will protect them because that's what Lord Rudra ordered you to. Subahu held his mother's hand to restrain and said, As you order, my lord. Taraka was not happy. This is their holy land and she wanted to live in India, not outside of it. But Ram promised that they will return eventually, but not as Asuras. That way of life was over. They will return in a new form. After what happened, Lakshman expected Vishwamitra to be very angry. However, he was intrigued, impressed. The Maharishi sat in Padmashan on a platform around a banyan tree. His knotted tuft of hair at the back of his shaven head fluttered in the breeze. A white angavastram placed on the side. Sit, commanded Maharishi. The two brothers and the military chief Arishtanemi took their seats while the Asuras stood quietly in the distance. Vishwamitra observed. They weren't tied up. Ram insisted on that. It wasn't even necessary. They stood in a disciplined line, not moving from their positions. 30 guards stationed around just in case. You have surprised me, Prince of Ayodhya, Vishwamitra addressed. Why did you disobey me? Why didn't you kill the Asuras? What do I make of this dramatic transformation? Is there a secret mantra to civilize the uncivilized? Ram spoke up in a calm voice. Even you don't believe the thing you just said, Guruji. You don't believe Asuras are uncivilized. You cannot. You worship Lord Rudra. Asuras have joined the Vayuputras, the tribe left by Lord Rudra himself. The Vayuputras are your partners, your karmasathis. My suspicion is you're provoking me. But I wonder, why? Vishwamitra's eyes widened. Instead of giving an answer, he asked another question. Do you think these imbeciles are worth your effort? That is an immaterial question, Guruji. Why should they be wiped out? That is the real question. What law have they broken? They attacked my camp repeatedly, but they didn't kill anyone. Last time they just burnt a small portion of the hedge fencing. They broke some of the mining equipment. Do these deserve death sentence? No. No. The laws of Ayodhya which I obey, that if the weak have not broken any law, it is the duty of the strong to protect them. But my orders were explicit. Forgive me for being explicit too, Guruji, Ram replied. But if you genuinely intended to kill these people, Arishtanemi would have done it easily. You've trained warriors. Asuras are amateurs. I believe you brought us here because you knew they would listen to the Prince of Ayodhya and no one else. You were looking for a non-confrontational solution to the problem. Not only I have followed the law, I have delivered what you truly wanted. But what I fail to understand, Guruji, why didn't you reveal your true intentions? Vishwamitra wore a rare expression on his face, one of bemused respect. He felt outfoxed and smiled. Do you always question your Guru like this? Ram was silent. The answer was obvious. Vashisht and not Vishwamitra was his Guru. You're right, Vishwamitra continued. Asuras are not bad people. They understand dharma. They just understand a dharma not valid for today's world. Sometimes the followers are good, but the leaders let them down. Sending them to Pariha is a good idea. They will find a purpose. We will arrange for their departure. Thank you, Guruji, said Ram. And as for your original question, Maharishi continued, I'm not going to give you an answer right now. Maybe later. In 2 weeks' time, a small group of Malaya Putras had been readied, along with the Asuras, for this journey to the hidden city of Vayuputras. The Asuras had recovered completely from the previous injuries. Vishwamitra stood at the gate of the camp, giving the last-minute instructions to his men. Arishtanemi, Ram and Lakshman beside him. As the men mounted the horses, Taraka and Subahu approached the Maharishi. Thank you for this, said Taraka, while bowing and folding her hands into a namaste. Vishwamitra broke into a smile, surprised by the display of manners from the Asura woman. Taraka turned to Ram, only to receive a gentle appreciation. Vishwamitra spoke up. Your fellow Asuras live in the west. They will keep you safe. Follow the setting sun and it will guide you home. Pariha is not a home. This is our home. We have lived here for as long as Devas have. We have lived here from the beginning. And you will return when the time is right, Ram cut in. For now, follow the path of the sun.